Today's review is sponsored by Jimmy Dean's Suntan Lotion. As soon as you start tanning, you smell like baking sausage, which is a good indication that you should go back inside.
Watch it, Alan. I'm shooting.
Night of the Demon, 1980. Not to be confused with Night of the Demons from 1988. The 1980 Night of the Demon is actually not about a demon, it's about Bigfoot, and it was eventually put on the infamous Video Nasties list, which we all know was a load of bullshit. I like a good Bigfoot movie. I've always had an interest in mythology, cryptozoology, and folklore, and I also find it fascinating how so many different countries have their own version of a bipedal ape-like creature. Sasquatch in North America, the Mande Barong in India, the Yowie from Australia, and of course the Yeti from the Himalayas. There's a lot more out there. I find it interesting how so many countries have similar legends. Night of the Demon is an okay Bigfoot movie, but it does have problems. This is a slasher movie, essentially. If you replace the Bigfoot with a guy in a mask running around the woods killing people, it would easily be seen as one of those backwoods slasher movies, like Just Before Dawn, Madman, or Don't Go in the Woods Alone. The Bigfoot elements do make it a tad more interesting. The movie opens with a guy in a hospital bed. He has been beaten and mutilated. We soon learn that this guy is an anthropology professor named Nugent who suffered these injuries during an expedition with his students. The local sheriff has come to the hospital to ask him some questions about what happened to him and his class.
Those horror stories you heard about in the forest, they're true. They're all true. There is a demon, a creature.
Perhaps it would be in everyone's best interest, Professor, if you were to begin at the beginning of your story.
So the movie is a flashback to what happened during this expedition, which just so happens to be a search for Bigfoot. It does not go well. I have mixed feelings when a movie opens like this. It can work when it's done right, creating intrigue for the audience, but it can also put a damper on the film. We already know everybody's going to die, and this guy's going to be the only survivor. It can ruin the suspense because we know what's going to happen. True, this is a horror movie and a slasher movie, so we know people are going to get killed, but knowing who's going to live can take the tension down a few notches.
Did he say anything about the 5 students that are missing?
Yes, a great deal.
That's an improvement. It was incoherent when we was found in the forest.
There was a rise in Bigfoot movies throughout the 1970s. The Legend of Boggy Creek, Shriek of the Mutilated, The Creature from Black Lake, Sasquatch, The Legend of Bigfoot. Night of the Demon was made to cash in on this craze, the original title being The Revenge of Bigfoot. It has similar elements to other Bigfoot movies that came out at the time. A group of people are looking for Bigfoot, there's one guy in the group who tells stories about sightings of the creature, they eventually run into Bigfoot, results may vary. This particular Bigfoot movie is notorious for being the goriest Bigfoot movie ever made, or at least the goriest Bigfoot movie to come out at the time. And that is true. Night of the Demon is a mixed bag. There are good things here, but there are also some bad things which brings the movie down at times. It does have your basic elements that you see in a lot of Bigfoot movies, but they do work in this film. Everything around Bigfoot is interesting and entertaining. Everything around the main characters makes the movie a bit of a slog.
Dr. Nugent came to talk to me after he heard about it, because apparently there have been a number of similar things that somehow all turn out to be fakes or fanatics' imaginations.
I'm very forgiving of movies when it comes to small budgets. Night of the Demon had a budget of $70,000, so I can get past some of the shakier elements of the film. The acting is a bit off, but everyone's trying. The kills are kinda shaky in terms of effects, but they still work. The main issues with this movie are in its pacing and its main characters. Because of the movie's low budget, the filmmakers could not afford a lot of film reels. Film reels are expensive, and when you have a low budget, you can't afford a lot of film reels. And when you can't have a lot of film reels, you can't do that many takes in your film. Night of the Demon had to film a lot of scenes in one long take. When it comes to doing this in movies, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I do think that there is entertainment in Night of the Demon, but during some of these long take scenes, they drag the movie to a halt. And that's mostly because of the main characters.
Smoked today, and Carlson doesn't smoke. Somebody was in there.
Christ, and probably listening to every word we said all day. That's all we need.
What else did he say? Nothing. I think he wanted to, but he was afraid. He seemed real nervous.
These people are kinda dull. The reason many slasher films are still entertaining between the kills are because of the characters, either interesting characters or quirky characters. Either they have something interesting going on in their lives, or they're at least having interesting conversations, or at the bare minimum, they have an interesting personality. The characters in this flick are dull.
But if there's one thing I do know, there never was any Bigfoot walking around here or anywhere else. It's just another version of the Loch Ness Monster.
You're pretty sure of that, are you?
I'm forgiving of lesser acting in movies as long as I see the actors putting in effort. But the acting here is just so drab. That's not to say that the people in this movie aren't trying. It's just that this acting is so bland. The performances are so bland, with the exception being the character of Wanda. This is someone who has something to do with the Bigfoot. She's the only character putting some kind of emotion in her acting.
Damn, I'm sorry!
Wanda, please, don't be afraid.
I'm sorry, I should have known better!
Never mind. Just go outside. There's too many of us in here.
Then there's the design of Bigfoot. It's okay.
Help me! Mama, help me!
The creature looks monstrous. It's a good design, but not for a Bigfoot movie. It looks too human. A monstrous human, but still too human. If this were a movie about just some wild man running around the woods killing people, along the lines of "Don't go in the woods alone," I think it would have been better. In terms of a Sasquatch movie, I like Bigfoot to look a little more ape-like. You can have some human features, but it should look more like an ape-esque creature. But this is probably what they had to work with given their budget, so I can let it go. I just wish the creature looked more like a Bigfoot and less like a person. What saves this movie are the kills and some of its ideas. A cult that worships Bigfoot, for example. There's a scene where our main characters witness this ceremony dedicated to Bigfoot.
Gahina, Gahina, Cosmos Deus Loci.
I wish this idea was more focused on in the movie. Here, it's just one short moment. But what we do get is interesting. I think it would be very interesting to get a movie about a cult that worships Bigfoot. There's another interesting part of the story that I don't want to spoil here. All I will say is it involves the character of Wanda. That's why her story saves the movie. And the kills, of course. Most of the kills are shown in flashbacks, but we also get some really good kills closer to the end of the movie. I can't show a lot of them here, one because YouTube, and second because I don't want to spoil them. They are a big part of the third act, and I just don't want to ruin them here, because even though Night of the Demon has issues, I still think it's worth checking out for yourself. But they do prop up this movie. Most of the kills were filmed after the movie was already shot. They were filmed separately and then inserted into the film later. And they are necessary. As much as I love blood and gore, I don't think it's necessary for a horror movie to be good. But it is needed in Night of the Demon, and for me, that brings the movie up and down at the same time. The blood is good, the kills are good, the effects are shaky, but still good given this movie's budget. They have that low-budget charm to them. But this blood is needed in this film, and it shows that the story itself did not have enough to keep the audience entertained before it was inserted in. The movie does a good job weaving the blood throughout the story, but the fact that it needed to be added in, the fact that it wasn't naturally put in there in the first place, and the fact that they had to put it in at the end to help make this movie entertaining, for me, that hurts the movie a bit. Sometimes adding more graphic scenes to your movie after filming can work, sometimes it can't. In Night of the Demon, it feels like the gore is being used more as a crutch than an additive to the film. I don't think Night of the Demon is a terrible movie. It is troubled, though. There's an interesting story here, the monster is decent, the gore is good, but the characters are dull, and there are moments that grind the movie to a halt. I understand that the film had a small budget, but there are things they could have done to fix these problems. I've seen many movies with smaller budgets than Night of the Demon that have better pacing, better characters, and they're just overall more interesting, entertaining movies. I do think Night of the Demons is worth checking out. If you're interested in Bigfoot movies and you're interested in the video Nasties, give this one a watch. I can understand people liking this movie more than me, and I can understand people disliking it. I would say, watch it for yourself and make your own decision. And with that, let's get to the Grindhouse rankings. We've got a body count of about 16. The kills consist of, but are not limited to, axe choppings, stabbings, impaling on a branch, and guts getting ripped out and being used as a whip against other characters. Yeah, that happens. It reaches the slasher requirements with a high body count, a variety of different kills, and a decent killer. There's some nudity in this flick with a pair of women's breasts, a man's ass, and a dick that is not treated very well. The monster design is okay. I wish it looked more like a Bigfoot, but the design works for the small budget. The main characters are dull. They don't have much personality, and the performances are a bit drab, except for Wanda. She's the only character that has some sort of personality. There are some interesting ideas here, enough to keep you watching, but the movie does drag at certain points. There are scenes that grind the movie to a halt, mostly because of the dull characters. And it doesn't help that the kills feel like they were added in to wake up the audience. I'm giving this a 2.9 out of 5. It's not terrible, but it could have been so much better. I can see some people liking this more than me, but I think there are much better Bigfoot movies out there. As always, I want to thank all of you for continuing to watch and support this channel. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know some of your favorite Bigfoot movies. This is the Maniac, here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die. Speaking of Bigfoot, this is the size of my shoe. You know what that means. I'm average.